It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good Saturday afternoon. Hope you're having a great day after a long, wintry week. We're getting into the clear now. Next week, we'll be back to spring-like temperatures, and that's a good thing. In the meantime, we got a full hour. I've got Gunner DeLay on, who is running for the Supreme Court. And in the second half of the hour, we're going to have Kim Slaughter on, who's running for the House seat up in Conway area. So let's get right into it. And Gunner, thanks for joining me here on the Kim Hammer Show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to the visit.
Very good. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, with regards to your name, Gunner, how'd you get that name anyway?
Well, interesting. My father had an uncle that married into the family. He was part Cherokee Indian, and his name was Gunner Smith. And my dad loved him to death. He taught my dad how to fish and hunt and all those good kind of things. And because of that close relationship he had, he wanted to name me Gunner in honor of him.
That's cool. Like that history with the name there. All right. Tell folks a little bit, to your comfort level, what you want to tell them about yourself personally or your family, just to get them familiar with who Gunner DeLay is.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong resident over here in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I was educated at the University of Arkansas, got a business degree, and then I attended law school and graduated in 1988. I first got into elected politics when I was 31 years old. And in 1994, I guess that was part of the contract with America, I got elected to the Arkansas House of Representatives as a young Republican. I think there was 12 Republicans out of 100 in the House when I arrived. And I served 2 terms in the House, and then I served 1 in the Senate. And then got appointed to a 2-year gig as prosecuting attorney over here in Sebastian County by Governor Huckabee. And then I was appointed to the bench by Governor Hutchinson in 2018. That's kind of my political history. My family and personal history, I'm married to my wife, Robin, for 36 years now. We've got 4 kids. They're all adults. I have a couple of grandchildren, 1 on the way, and we're real active in the community. I attend First Baptist Church here in Fort Smith, and I teach some Bible studies and like to play tennis and jog and a little bit of golf when I've got time to do it. And so those are the things that kind of keep me busy when I'm not on the bench rendering decisions.
All right. So let's get started. You're running for the Supreme Court position. I've got your website pulled up, and go ahead and give me that website so folks can be looking it up if they want to. What is your website?
Yeah, I'll give them a couple things to look at. Our campaign website is gunnerdelay.com, and if you go to that page, you'll see a lot of my personal history in terms of what I've done in public service. There's a lot of great articles going back to 1994, 95, all the way through current. And so it gives people an opportunity to get a sense of the kinds of things that I've stood for, fought for, and believe in. I also want to invite people to go to my Facebook page at Judge Gunner DeLay for Supreme Court. On that, it's a lot different. I've been posting videos for the past several months, most of which have to do with the Bill of Rights. So we have kind of posted a series of, there's probably 15 to 20 videos on the Bill of Rights, everything from First Amendment right to free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, of course, the Second Amendment right to bear arms. We've worked our way all the way through and just recently completed the 10th Amendment. So that will give them another resource to kind of look at and get a sense for what I believe in and how I view my job as a judge.
Sure. So at 31, you got elected to the House of Representatives. You managed to pull off something pretty good, being 31 years old, getting elected as a Republican in a time when it wasn't cool to be a Republican, to the House of Representatives. Did you just stumble into that, or how was it you managed to pull that one off?
Well, I guess I first started getting interested in, public service. When I attended Arkansas Boys State, I was a junior in high school, really got inspired during that week. In fact, one of the best speakers we had come through was Frank White, and he got elected that go-round. And, of course, I was a big supporter of Ronald Reagan, and he got elected in 1980 as well. And so I would say, I kind of had it in the back of my mind, one day I think I might be interested in doing that. So when I got through law school and everything, I got involved in kind of local party politics and what have you. And one of our local representatives was just, from really the left wing of the Democratic Party. And so I had kind of been watching his voting history, and I said, I really don't think that his record is in tune with the people up here in Fort Smith. And so, it just was a matter of timing. I said, I think this is it. And luckily, hit the right year, and everybody's really interested in the country and going back in a more conservative direction. And so I got to be a part of that.
All right, so let me ask you, Supreme Court's supposed to be nonpartisan. You've got some roots going back into conservative values. Let's talk about some things that you'll have to deal with as a judge on the bench. How do you separate what are your personal convictions and beliefs? And you mentioned about teaching a Sunday school class, and commend you for all that, being a pastor. But how do you sit in a position of a judge on a bench of the Supreme Court and have your personal convictions, but yet you've got to make decisions based on the letter of the law? From your perspective, how can you handle that, or how would you do that?
Yeah, I am a constitutional conservative. That's kind of my judicial philosophy. I believe that judges should apply strict construction when interpreting laws and the Constitution, and especially when it comes to the Constitution, we should consider the original intent of the drafters in interpreting the Constitution. So that's kind of my basic framework for making decisions. Now, as Judge Scalia once said, if you're a strict constructionist, sometimes you may ultimately make a decision you don't particularly care for if you're doing the job correctly. And so sometimes that does happen. I think if you're committed to the principle of strict construction, then you just, you have to set aside your personal likes or dislikes. Now, I will say that, most of the time you probably end up rendering decisions that are consistent with your own philosophy. But, I'll just give you, for instance, we had a case up here in Fort Smith not that long ago under the new act that was passed in the legislature to protect our monuments and historical markers across the state. And so we had a display down here in Fort Smith where it was called the Seven Flags of Fort Smith, and each flag represented a particular era of our history, and going back to the Spanish government and the French, and every flag that we have flown over, which unfortunately included the Confederate States of America, but that was just one of the seven flags. Well, City of Fort Smith took that display down, and it was not in compliance with the state law. Now, so that case was about one thing, and that was whether the city had complied with the law that was adopted by the legislature in terms of what they had to do to remove a historical landmark. And so someone says, well, I can't believe that you would, I ultimately ruled that they didn't comply with the law, by the way, and they need to get the permission of the Historical Commission to do that. But someone made a comment and said, well, gosh, are you trying to defend the Confederate flag? And I said, it had nothing to do with that. That is separate and apart. It had nothing to do with the issues presented to the court. It was about whether the city had complied with the law. So I guess my point in all that is saying that, it's about looking at the statute, applying it to the facts, and being committed to that strict construction and just setting aside however you may feel about a particular issue or parties or things of that nature.
Well, sometimes you don't have the luxury of agreeing or disagreeing with the law. You just have to interpret the law and make your decision on the basis of what you can defend, so it doesn't get appealed up to a higher court, or if it does, it could uphold you. And that, that I'm looking on your website, you've got that as one of the things at the bottom of the front page is, one of the issues you've had to deal with. Let me ask you on that subject matter, when it comes to having been a legislator yourself in the past and been on that side, and you go on to the Supreme Court, or even sitting as a judge now, being a member of the judicial branch, what do you see are things that need to occur between the judicial branch and the legislative branch as far as how we work together, how we harmonize, or how we maintain that safe separation of powers, so that we don't conflict?
Absolutely. And I think, again, going back to being a constitutional conservative, I'm a big believer that one of the problems that we've had with our country is judicial activism. And by that, what I mean is that some judges see their role as kind of a super legislator, that, well, gosh, if I don't like what the legislature did, I'll just substitute my judgment for theirs and kind of craft a resolution what I think is fair and right. I mean, that kind of elitist attitude is what has really hurt our country, because we've had so many things that have been struck down or eroded, not only in our state, but across the country. And so I really feel strongly what I would tell the legislature is, hey, with me, you're going to have somebody that appreciates and understands the role of the legislature. They're the elected officials, with the responsibility of lawmaking. And unless it is in violation of the Constitution, the court should uphold it. And so I do have an appreciation for the role that our lawmakers fill, and I don't see my role as a jurist as somehow I've got to substitute my judgment for the legislatures in coming up with an outcome that I just like personally. And I think we've got way too much of that. And I really believe that the person that I'm running against in this race has followed that typical liberal model for judicial decision making.
So let me ask you, and if I get into a question that violates any ethics or anything like that, you just say can't talk about that. But judges are nonpartisan races. You, depending on who you talk to, you hear one side of the issue favor, some against. You care to weigh in on what you think as far as should judges have to declare and remove that nonpartisan label so that they can declare their political views through identifying with a political party?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think it's one that probably at this point voters of the state need to take another look at. People may not be aware, but up until 2002, voters in Arkansas elected judges on a partisan basis. Judges did have a party affiliation next to their name on the ballot. In fact, my opponent, when she first ran back in 1994, she ran as a Democrat because, party affiliation was part of that process. As part of Amendment 80, we made the election of judges nonpartisan. And I understand kind of the general principle that everybody likes the idea that somebody's completely party neutral, but it's kind of really detached from reality, because every judge has voted in party primaries and, has probably participated in party politics to some extent. And so it's a little bit Pollyannish to think that, oh gosh, we're electing people to the bench that have never been involved in party politics. And that's just not the case. We currently have two former legislators on the bench. One was a Democrat, one was a Republican. So in answer to your question, I feel like it's time now that we should probably reverse course and allow judges at all levels to run with party affiliation because of this point. When voters go to the ballot box, judicial races are probably the one set of races that they had the least amount of information about candidates when they go to cast their ballot. The one thing I get asked more than anything is, what party do you belong to? And then I have to explain, well, Amendment 80 changed the law. We don't, we run nonpartisan. I can certainly tell them about my personal history and what I have done in elected politics. That's permissible. But voters get very frustrated. They can't understand it. It doesn't make sense to them. Even at the federal level where we have appointed judges, everybody knows who made the appointment, and that the president who's in office is selecting people that reflect his ideology and his values and his philosophy. So, even on the court, they'll go, oh, there's, a Trump appointee or a Bush appointee, and this person was a Clinton appointee or an Obama appointee. All of that is code for, what's their mindset. So I hope that the legislature will consider putting that matter back on the ballot at some point, just as a matter of transparency for the voters when they make decisions on these races.
Regardless whether you would be registered as a Democrat or Republican, you would always stand subject to having your decision appealed to a higher court. So would it really matter if you revealed yourself as a Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, whatever flavor, knowing that if you didn't rule by the letter of the law, that you would have your case appealed up?
Yes, absolutely. And, like I said, for the greater part of our state's history, we had partisan judges. And so I don't subscribe to the idea, well, all those decisions were automatically suspect and unjust and unconstitutional simply because, they had a Democrat or Republican party affiliation by their name. So to me, it's a non-factor. I mean, if you've got a judge that's just blatantly partisan, then people of his district or her district can file a complaint with the Committee on Judicial Ethics, and certainly they'll look into it. And if there's a pattern of behavior there that's questionable, then that person could be sanctioned or even removed from office. So to me, it would be an absolute non-factor in terms of, whether the judicial branch was upholding its end of the bargain and dispensing justice the way it should.
What's the one thing, being a sitting judge and former legislator, what's the one thing that drives you nuts as you look at the landscape of judges across the land or the judicial system as a whole? And what's the one thing that just absolutely drives you nuts that you'd like to be able to change?
Yeah, I mean, that's real easy. I think it's just elitism. And I think elitism at all levels of government and politics is killing this country. And that's the idea that, that there's kind of two groups in America. There's the we know better than everybody else mentality. And that's always been a problem in the judiciary. And I think it's really unhealthy that when people get elected as judges, they tend to isolate themselves. They climb up in that ivory tower. They never get out and go to coffee shops and meet regular folks and hear what people are thinking. They don't have to express their own opinion, if it's a political matter, but they can certainly listen to their fellow citizens. And I think that's one of the reasons that the Supreme Court for years and years and years has not really reflected the values of the majority of Arkansans. So one of the things that I'm really big on, Kim, is if I get elected to this office, I want to make it a point to get out to the schools, high schools, grade schools, universities, civics clubs, even law schools if they'll have me, and go and talk about the principles that this country was founded upon, what exactly the Bill of Rights means and why it's important. If we want to avoid authoritarian type government, we better know, what those rights mean. And I think it's critically important the justices on the court get out and do that, that they be accessible, that they answer questions and help educate. And so I guess that's, a soapbox of mine that I do think elitism on the court has really taken us in the wrong direction.
All right, I got about 3 or 4 minutes left before we get to the bottom of the hour. What would you like the people to know, or what would you like to just make sure you get a point driven home on?
Well, I guess I would end up by saying, every week at the Arkansas Supreme Court, decisions are being made that affect the quality of life that we have in our state. They determine the kind of environment that our businesses have to conduct themselves in. They determine who is eligible to walk on our streets. They determine the extent of liberty and freedom that we have and we're able to exercise. And so it's critically important that people understand that the high court really matters and it affects their lives just as much as the legislature. And in making that decision, I think it's important that they know the candidates and the difference in the candidates and what my campaign represents. And that is a very conservative constitutional approach that I think is consistent with the majority of people in the state of Arkansas. This election is critical because the composition of the court kind of hangs in balance. The court could go in a direct conservative direction that it has never been before, if they elect the right candidates in this go-round. And I represent part of that option for the voters of the state. So I would really appreciate their consideration. Again, look at my personal information on our website and our Facebook page. And if you think, gosh, that's the kind of philosophy I'd like to see on the bench, we would truly appreciate their support, and I would humbly ask for their vote.
Let me wrap up by listening to what you just said, and going back to that issue of should judges declare their political party. And the fact of the matter is that judges are known, or courts are known, to what kind of view they have based on their rulings, absent of, being appealed up and maybe overturned. But every court has a brand on it of either being liberal or being conservative by the basis of how they rule things. And whether that is, perceived or whether that is real, I think that is fact. And so your thoughts on, should we end the nonpartisan position of the judges, I think, kind of echoes based on what you said there about courts hanging the balance. And you look at, what's happening at the national level and about the potential of stacking the Supreme Court, which I think would just be an incredibly dangerous thing, regardless whether you're Republican or Democrat, incredibly dangerous thing to happen. But the reality is that based on who's in that position is going to help set the tone for that direction. All right. Anything else?
Could not agree more. Yeah. No, I totally agree with what you just said. That was a good way to end it right there.
Okay. Give your website one more time before I let you go. Just make sure people have it.
Sure. Check us out at GunnerDeLay.com. And on our Facebook page, it's Judge Gunner DeLay for Supreme Court.
Very good. Gunner, thank you for taking time out to be on the Kim Hammer Show today. Wish you the best out on the campaign trail, and look forward to seeing what happens in the future with you. This is Kim Hammer. We're going to thank you very much, Gunner. This is Kim Hammer on the Kim Hammer Show. We're going to take a break. You can go up to our website, www.thekimhammershow.com, and stay current with some events that I think are things that you might be interested in knowing as we post articles from time to time, or you can go back and listen to any of the previous recorded program. We'll come back from the break. We have Kim Slaughter, who is a candidate for the House of Representatives seat in Conway. We'll be back after the break. Hi, this is Kim Hammer back on the Kim Hammer Show. Thank you for joining me here on a great Saturday after a long winter week. Hopefully we'll get through the rest of the weekend, get in some beautiful spring weather next week, and kind of get back on the warm side. Previous guest was Gunner DeLay, running for the Supreme Court position here in Arkansas coming up. And why don't you go up there to his website if you'd like to and just check out some of the information on him at gunnerdelay.com. But right now we have Kim Slaughter, who's a candidate for a House of Representatives seat in Faulkner County, primarily, I think, in Conway. And Kim, welcome to the Kim Hammer Show.
Hello, Kim. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, very welcome. Hey, first of all, do you have a website or anything like that folks can go up there and be looking at while we're talking?
Absolutely. My website is kim4house.com.
Is that the number 4 or spelled out 4?
Spelled out, kim4, house.com.
All right. Tell them.
I have a lot of information about me. Under the About tab, there's a tab called Convictions, and that gives a real insight to who I am as a person and a candidate that folks might want to check out.
Okay. One more time on that website. I was trying to pull it up. Give it to me again, please.
kim4house.com.
Okay.
FOR house. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first of all, tell people a little bit about yourself. Give some, to the comfort level you have, some personal information about you or your family, anything you want them to know about you personally.
Sure, my comfort level is wide open. I've actually been on my page and my website and told lots of different personal stories about myself that gives me a better insight as to being a candidate. I'm 53 years old and I own 3 different businesses here in Conway. I own a marketing company. My husband owns Conway Remodeling, and we just recently opened Toadsuck Mini Golf here in Conway. And I'm running for office because I really want to make a difference. I'm a completely different kind of candidate. I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular taxpayer that wants to make a difference, wants my voice and the voice of people, hardworking people just like me, to have a voice at the Capitol, and that's why I'm running. My father is a Vietnam veteran, and my parents live with me because my father recently had a stroke, so I help take care of them. I've been married 11 years, but he was my junior high school boyfriend, so we've known each other since we were 14. And I have 4 very cute little chihuahuas.
Okay.
Extremely cute.
So that means you love animals is what that means.
I love animals with a passion, yes.
All right. As far as, so you got 3 businesses, which means you stay very busy, no doubt. Now, what's the House seat that you're running for up there?
District 56.
And the geographical area because we just went through that redistricting stuff, so the geographical area that covers?
It's north and east Conway, and then up around Beaver Fork Lake. So it's just that part of Conway. But everything has to have a Conway address. There's nothing in Valonia or anything like that. So it's just north and east Conway. It is a little bit outside the city limits of Conway, and then right around Beaver Fork Lake.
Okay. All right. So let's go down the list. What are some of the ambitions you would have should you be elected for that seat?
Well, right now that seat is held by a Democrat. So one of the main things I want to do is flip the blue seat red because, that's obviously my main goal, of course, because I want to bring more of a conservative values to the Capitol. I am a very strong conservative. I believe that my experience as a business owner in budgeting and having to run a business and meet a payroll gives me excellent experience in the Capitol for that sort of thing. I also am adopted, so I have lots of ideas on streamlining the adoption process and basically celebrating adoption as a non-lethal choice to abortion. So those are just a couple of the things that I'm definitely for.
You got on your campaign. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I had a little afterthought. I've also been endorsed by the gun owners of Arkansas, so I'm very pro Second Amendment.
Okay. I noticed on your website, too, that you vote against government overreach. What are your ideas of some of the overreach that prompted you to put that on your page that you would want to come in and do anything about or do differently?
That is super easy. This is the main reason I'm running. When the governor of our state shut down businesses, I was just I couldn't believe it. I never thought in my 53 years of being a taxpayer and a citizen that the government could shut a business down. And I have many, many friends in Conway. I've been a business owner in Conway for years and years. I have supported the business community, and I have many, many friends in Conway that have suffered great financial losses because the government shut their business down. And so that is one of the main things I'm against. I am running on freedom. I believe that as an American citizen, we should have freedoms. And I think shutting businesses down and forcing people to get shots and wear masks is not freedom. And I believe that once you let one freedom domino fall, then the rest of them will fall faster. So I am definitely for protecting the rights of Arkansans in any way I can.
All right. So I'm just going to go down your list of things you got. So, vote against government overreach. I think you kind of hit on it here. Vote against the mask or the vaccine mandate. Talk on that one.
Exactly. If you want to wear a mask, more power to you. I respect that. I think that's wonderful. You have to be concerned about your own health issues. But if you don't, we should live in a state that gives people the freedom to do what they want to do, including children that go to school and also the vaccine mandates. I mean, here we had the healthcare workers that risked their life. Literally, my mother was in the hospital with COVID, and she had nurses and doctors that risked their life to care for her. And now they're being fired if they don't take the vaccine.
And you got on here also vote for lower taxes and fiscal responsibility, which we just recently gave the largest tax cut in the history of Arkansas, $500 million. What do you see as far as a dish? Go ahead.
Well, we also raise property taxes a little bit. So what I think, when you lower taxes, it has to really mean something. It can't just, and I think that was a great thing that we did the biggest tax break. And I know that a lot of Arkansans will have some extra money in their pockets, and I'm all for that. But to take it one step further, what I would like to do is take my experience as a business owner, look at that budget, see where we can actually save money so that when we have tax breaks, they were safeguarded against new taxes to make up the loss. And a lot of times that's what you see. You see one tax cut, but then you see a tax increase on the flip side. And so what I would like to use my business experience in managing budgets to look at the budget and see where we can save money so we don't have to have those taxes, on something else. As a business owner, if I have to look at my budget, if I have something come up where my budget is sort of put out of whack, say there's a natural disaster or just something comes up in my business that I have to spend, I cannot just turn around and raise my prices. I have to figure out where I can save money in other areas of my business so that I can keep that budget in line. So if I want to cut prices, so, in order to be competitive or have a sale or something like that, then I have to find ways in that budget that I can, absorb that. And I want government to run the same way. If we cut taxes, then instead of transferring it, I want to find a way where we can absorb that by saving money.
Go on to the next thing on your list is you talk about voting, vote for making Arkansas a better place to start a business. So you're a business owner. You've got 3 different businesses going on. You just started one from a business owner, from a business-friendly environment. What do you see, or what have you recognized that are things that you think could be done to incentivize people to want to start businesses? You put on here also that, go ahead. You put on here also we're currently 37th, and I can't read the rest of it, but go on, talk about that for a second.
So I've had a business in Dallas, and I've had business in North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina many, many decades ago, and I lived in Dallas about a decade ago. And I've had businesses in both states and Arkansas. I will say that Arkansas is one of the most expensive states for me to run a business. There's in Arkansas is 37, like I said. We also have a don't quote me on this, I'm going by memory, but I do believe it's a 2.7 rating on a scale of 1 to 10 for taxing businesses. Small businesses feeling the brunt of that. So it's a very, very expensive. It's a very, very expensive state to run a business, especially a small business. Small businesses make up 80% of Arkansas's employment pool. And so we are the backbone of Arkansas's economy. And we need to make it easier for small businesses to compete against large businesses. For example, when you take a regulation, maybe it's, minimum wage, for example, and you apply that to Walmart, Tyson, these type of businesses, they have no problem absorbing that because of the size. But when you apply that to a business that has 5 employees, you're putting them at a disadvantage. So you're basically creating legislation that is helping larger businesses and hurting the smaller businesses that are the backbone of our economy. So I want to be the voice for those small business owners across the state in keeping those regulations down so that small businesses have a competitive advantage against the larger businesses.
If elected, what would be some of your top priorities to work on?
I think number one, I would look at the budget and see where we could save where we could save money without cutting services that were beneficial to Arkansas, where we could just cut excess waste and things like that. Of course, some tax reform, and more importantly, protecting our freedoms and adoption. So I'm so proud of Arkansas in being the number one state in the country for, pro-life. But I worry about for example, the 15-year-old pregnant woman that is terrified and doesn't know what to do because that option that she once saw as a very easy option is taken away. So what I want to do is celebrate and illustrate another option that can be an easy path for her. So put her together with men and women that want babies. I'm adopted. 53 years ago, my parents wanted a child. And 53 years ago, they adopted me, and I have changed their life for 53 years. If we could show a scared, pregnant girl what a beautiful option and how much of an impact she could make for decades by adopting her baby, then to me, that gives her a wonderful choice that isn't lethal. And also drugs and drug court. I want to do something that stops this cycle of people going in and out of the drug system and the courts and my husband has a history, and that's not something I'm ashamed of. In fact, I'm proud of him, but he does have a history with drugs. He's been in trouble with drugs, and it's no secret that he has been in a lot of trouble. And he just went in and out of the penal system with all the different rules that they have. And he has some felonies that are as strong because all they were was selling methamphetamines. That's all he did. But yet, because we had this war on drugs, his felony is as high of a felony as someone that commits murder. That's insane. That makes it difficult for someone that has changed their life. They have beat the drugs. They want to be a productive part of society. It makes it almost impossible to allow them to make that transition into productive part of society when you put this over their head as if they've murdered someone. I want to change that with our legal system.
Other areas that you think you would be, of course, when you come in down there, I remember when I first came in, you come in with a lot of ideas, a lot of energy, which is great. I'm not dismissing that at all, but you also have to work into knowing, how to get things done. With you haven't ever served in public office before, correct?
No, sir.
So how do you see? What would be your attitude coming in as one who is not, which I didn't serve either. So, I mean, I had not served anything when I came in, but I'm just curious as far as what your mindset would be coming in as a legislator, and how would you see your first term adapting and getting in the groove of things and hitting the ground running? Have you kind of given yourself a chance to envision what that would be like?
Yes, absolutely. I have some friends of mine that are very involved in the political and government process that have basically explained to me what it's like to be a freshman and all of that sort of thing. And so what I would like to be in the beginning is just a sponge to learn exactly how things work, who I need to go to that's an expert in that field. In fact, I was making phone calls, just political, hey, vote for me kind of phone calls. And I spoke to a gentleman that is very involved in education. He's a teacher, and he is a part of some sort of Rockefeller organization that wants to help legislatures learn about what's going on in the public school system. And I saved his number. I said, sir, I'll be honest, education is something that I'm not that versed on because I don't have children. I just have dogs. And so I would really count on people like that, just everyday citizens that are involved in organizations that support either education or support pro-life or support gun rights. I would want to go to those organizations and get their feedback on certain laws, as well as other legislatures that maybe that's their passion. I know some legislatures that are passionate about education. I know, like, for example, Mary Bentley is passionate about small businesses. I think we could work together because she has a manufacturing business and I have more of a retail business. So she's going to have a different view of business than I am. So I think just collectively working with all of the smart people around me and making sure that I make the best decision for Arkansas is what I want to do.
All right, tell you what I want to do. I want to run down, I've got about 10 minutes left. I want to run down the list of just different topics that we deal with as legislators and give you a minute to talk about those particular topics, what your philosophy is, and if there is a passion that you have in those areas, what would that passion be driven toward trying to accomplish in that area? You just mentioned as far as education, that it's not your strong suit, which we all have different, areas that we are strong in and others that we have to depend on people that we build relationships with that we can trust that if they tell us something, it aligns with our political value system. So let's take education for a minute. As a legislator, what would be your attitude, your approach, or how would you come in viewing education and what you like or don't like and what you'd like to do in that area?
Well, again, I would like to talk to the people that are smart in that area. But also, I've talked enough, I have visited enough with people to know that I believe that the money should follow the child. Heather Beach is a good friend of mine, and she has enlightened me so much on some of the ideas that she has for education. So I would like to see the money follow the child, and I would like to take masks off our children.
What about in the area of crime? The governor announced the intent to add on 400 and something new beds. We're increasing. It's projected over the next 10 years that we're going to increase in the area of violent crimes 3% on the growth pattern that we historically have been on. Your thoughts on crime and how to deal with crime and legislation or anything addressing the crime issue?
Well, what I'd like to do is put some programs in place that prevent crime ahead of time. Start younger. Start with different Head Start programs, or there's an organization here in Conway. We do a really good job of it. Judge Braswell is very involved in teen crimes here in Conway, and there's an organization called Deliver Hope, and they work with troubled teens and helping them maybe turn their life around before it gets violent, before it gets too bad. I would like to really emphasize mental health as it relates to crime, so that we can prevent the crimes rather than continue to build more and more prisons just to house them. I mean, wouldn't it be better if before you're a victim of crime, we could change that person and help them to get on the right path? Because there's so many children growing up without the proper influences, or maybe in underserved areas where they're not getting the proper type of support from the community. So I would like to increase that to prevent the crime rather than just, locking people up when they do something. I mean, I'm for locking them up, don't get me wrong, but if we can lower the crime rate over a long period of time by implementing programs that help the youth and help people that have been in trouble. My husband went through the system for years, and there was never an opportunity where he could get the help that he needed for his addiction. That's what we need, instead of, like I said, just continuing to lock them up.
How about public health?
public health. That is one of the things that is a very complex subject. One thing that I have not been happy about with the public health, the way that we've handled public health lately, is the mandates, the vaccine mandates, and so forth. I think that rural hospitals in Arkansas need more support. My mother was in the Mena Hospital, and I'm not dissing any hospital. I'm just saying they're rural hospitals. They don't have the finances they need. And she almost died because they couldn't keep an IV in her because there just wasn't the manpower or the support needed to help her. And it has no negative impact on no negative reflection on their ability as they're trying. It just, we need to support them, and we need to support, we need to look at those rural hospitals and give them the support. But on top of that, we also don't need to fire people and put the hospitals in jeopardy of not having enough staff. When you don't have enough staff, you don't get the same care. So we don't need to fire good nurses just because they want to make a choice for freedom.
How about infrastructure with the amount of money that's going to be coming into the state? There'll be some opportunities, some challenges. Infrastructure is kind of a broad topic too. That could be your roads. That could also be your water systems. That could be your broadband. Expanding capabilities. What about along the lines of infrastructure?
Well, I think we definitely need improve our roads and our bridges. I mean, we saw that with the bridge that we had, in Memphis, and with the crack that we had in it. So we definitely need to make sure that our roads are safe. Look, I used to live in Dallas, and I used to come visit my parents, all the time from Dallas. You can definitely tell the difference when you cross that state line. So I definitely am for the roads. As far as internet, yes, absolutely. My husband worked at ArcUps, and he did a lot of work there as far as locating the utilities so that they could expand broadband. So I think that expanding broadband it opens up financial opportunities, career opportunities. It opens up so many opportunities for those people that live in areas that don't have access to the internet. I have city and county roads here in my district that need help as well. And so I would like to see those issues handled and using that money to improve the roads and also expand broadband.
All right. Department of Human Services, which encompasses, you hit on one of those being foster care, DYS, Division of Youth Services, which would include places like the Alexander unit out here, or just, youth services in general. And then also it deals with the Medicaid expansion, meeting the needs of the Medicaid population. What are your thoughts around DHS or that organization, if you have any at all?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get more privately funded organizations out there, charities like Deliver Hope. I'd like to see more organizations like Deliver Hope get involved the way that they've gotten involved here in Faulkner County with troubled youth and the DHS system. Get involved with them and to help these people rise out of that situation that they're in, and give them the resources and the tools that they need to better their lives. So again, it's almost like the same thing with our prison systems, helping those people to not, just go in that revolving door. And same thing with DHS. If there are issues with troubled teens, or with parents that maybe don't have the best parenting skills and they have to have their children taken away from them, let's give them the support, not only from the state level, but also from the organizations that specialize in that, because Deliver Hope has done an amazing job at cutting down the number of troubled youth in our jail system and also in our foster system. So I would definitely do that. I would also like to improve mental health. A lot of the reasons that children end up in foster care is either drugs or mental health, which often sometimes can coincide. So I'd like to improve and increase the mental health resources in our state from both the state funding perspective and also a private perspective. There are many organizations out there that can help on a private level. Here we have Renewal Ranch and we have Harbor Home. Harbor Home has reunited so many women with their children that were in foster care because they've gotten them off drugs. And that is a 100% privately funded organization. We need to have more emphasis on those types of organizations that do such an amazing job of helping those people with their mental health issues, their drug addictions, and reuniting them with their children in the foster care system.
Okay.
To me, it's all about prevention.
Very good. I got to bring it down because we're down to the last 2 minutes. And one thing I'll say about you, you know how to talk fast, and that's not a bad thing. No, you got a lot in.
An auctioneer.
You got a lot in. All right, you got like 30 seconds to make the last statement you want to make that you want people to hear.
I want to say I'm glad to see all the Republicans in the race. It's awesome. Let's turn some of these blue seats red and go to my website, kimforhouse.com. Learn everything about me. And last but not least, please visit my website. Follow me. You will learn everything that you need to know. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right, Kim.
Let's flip my seat.
All right. Thank you, Kim. That's Kim Slaughter running for the House seat up there in Conway. Thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show today. I've tried to give you as much time as possible with the candidates. We'll be back on next week with a couple other candidates. Just stay tuned to the website, www.thekimhammershow.com, to keep up with everything going on that's important to you. Have a great Saturday.